Introducing the Current Affairs Workbook. It is an activity-driven learning comprising summaries, quick facts, MCQs, true-false statements, mains practice questions, and ethics case studies, consolidated into a comprehensive workbook. Dive into our monthly magazine summary, a concise overview capturing key insights, events, and trends of the month. Unlock the power of our Quick Facts block, your rapid reference toolkit with essential facts, figures, and critical statistics. Experience our dynamic activities like MCQs and true-false statements to subjective questions and ethics case studies that refine your analytical thinking and articulation skills. Track your progress with our dedicated self-evaluation page, your personal growth monitoring and improvement tool.
Hello and welcome to this new edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. Switzerland suspends most favored nation clause in tax treaty with India over Nestle ruling. RBI increases limit for collateral-free agricultural loan. Moldova signed International Solar Alliance Framework Agreement. UK joins comprehensive and progressive agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. Union government unveils Jal Vahak scheme to boost inland waterways. India's nuclear power capacity set to triple by 2031-32, says Union Minister for Science and Technology. Let's dive into a significant development in the realm of international taxation. Starting January 1, 2025, Switzerland will suspend the most favored nation clause in its double taxation avoidance agreement with India. This decision follows a landmark Supreme Court ruling in 2023. The ruling clarified that the MFN clause isn't automatically triggered when a country joins the OECD, especially if India had signed a tax treaty with that country before its OECD membership. Furthermore, the court emphasized that a DTAA cannot be enforced unless it's notified under the Income Tax Act of 1961. Now, let's take a moment to understand the context of India-Switzerland DTAA. Signed in 1994, this agreement aimed to avoid double taxation on income and has been in force ever since. However, the suspension of the MFN clause will have notable impacts. Indian companies are expected to face higher tax liabilities. The withholding tax on dividends from Switzerland will rise from 5% to 10%, adding to the tax burden. Similarly, Swiss companies that receive dividends from India will continue to face a 10% withholding tax as per India-Switzerland DTAA. But that's not all. This decision could prompt other nations to re-evaluate MFN clauses by other countries. This could prompt other nations to reconsider how MFN clause is applied in their own tax treaties with India. However, it's important to note that other DTAA benefits and investment under the European Free Trade Association will remain unaffected. Now, let's briefly revisit the concept of most favored nation. The MFN principle requires that any favorable trading terms granted by one WTO member to another must be extended to all other members. This principle is integral to maintaining equality and preventing discrimination in international trade. It is also enshrined in key agreements like the General Agreement on Trade and Services, Article 2, and the Agreement on Trade-Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights, Article 4. To sum it up, the suspension of the MFN clause in the India-Switzerland DTAA is a significant development that could reshape cross-border taxation dynamics.
In a significant development for the agricultural sector, the Reserve Bank of India has announced an increase in the limit for collateral-free agricultural loans. This move is set to enhance financial access for farmers, ensuring they have the necessary resources to meet their operational and developmental needs without the burden of providing collateral. Several key directives have been issued to banks under this new guideline. The limit for collateral-free agricultural loans, including loans for allied activities, has been enhanced from 1.6 lakh rupees per borrower to 2 lakh rupees. The revised guidelines are to be implemented timely, starting from January 1, 2025, to ensure swift financial assistance. Banks have also been directed to conduct awareness campaigns to inform farmers and stakeholders about this new directive. This enhanced limit is significant for several reasons. It enhances credit accessibility, particularly for small and marginal farmers who make up over 86% of the agricultural sector. It simplifies the loan disbursement process, encouraging higher uptake of the Kisan Credit Card or KCC loans. Moreover, it promotes financial inclusion by expanding farmer financial access to rural farming communities and fosters credit-driven economic growth, aligning with the government's long-term vision for sustainable agriculture. However, challenges in agricultural credit disbursement remain. These include a skewed focus on short-term crop loans, a rising fiscal burden due to loan waivers, and over-reliance on non-institutional credit sources. In addition to this directive, the government has also introduced several initiatives to enhance credit flow to the agricultural sector. Promotion of cooperative credit societies like Primary Agriculture Credit Societies or PACS at the grassroots level. The Kisan Credit Card or KCC scheme, which ensures adequate and timely credit for farmers for their agricultural operations. And the Modified Interest Subvention Scheme, which provides short-term loans at concessional interest rates for agriculture and allied activities. With these measures, the government and RBI aim to strengthen the financial framework for farmers and foster credit-driven economic growth in the sector.
Ahead, we bring you an important update on global efforts to combat climate change. Moldova has signed the International Solar Alliance Framework Agreement, strengthening its commitment to solar energy adoption and climate action. Let's first start with a bit of a background. The ISA Framework Agreement came into force in 2017. However, following an amendment in 2020, all United Nations member states became eligible to join the alliance, making it a truly global initiative. Now, what is the International Solar Alliance? Headquartered in Gurugram, India, the ISA was conceptualized during the COP21 summit in Paris in 2015 as a collaborative effort between India and France aimed at uniting efforts to combat climate change by implementing solar energy solutions. Under its ambitious Towards 1000 strategy, the ISA aims to mobilize $1,000 billion in solar energy investment by 2030, provide energy access to 1,000 million people globally, and lastly, facilitate the installation of 1,000 gigawatts of solar energy capacity. The ISA Assembly serves as the apex decision-making body overseeing implementation of ISA's framework agreement. So far, 104 countries have joined as members, with 16 more as signatories. But why is the ISA so significant? For starters, it encourages the adoption of sustainable, low global warming potential solar-based cooling technologies, which are crucial for small and medium-sized farms. Additionally, its efforts are projected to reduce 1,000 million tons of CO2 emissions annually. The International Solar Alliance also positions India as a leader in clean energy and supports the country's goal of achieving net zero emissions by 2070. Furthermore, it's working to create a global solar energy market by encouraging large-scale deployment and reducing cost through collaborative development. The ISA's initiative reflects its diverse and inclusive approach. The Scaling Solar Applications for Agricultural Use initiative addresses the rising demand for solar-powered water pumps. Moreover, the ISA CARES program is dedicated to providing innovative solar solutions for health in low and middle-income countries. Another initiative focuses on solarizing heating and cooling systems across commercial, industrial, and residential sectors in member countries. And at COP27, the Global Solar Facility was launched to catalyze solar investments, particularly in underserved regions across Africa.
Moving ahead, the United Kingdom has recently achieved a significant milestone by becoming the first European country to join the Indo-Pacific Trade Bloc, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership or CPTPP. This development follows the signing of the Accession Protocol in 2023 by the CPTPP member nations and the UK, which paved the way for the UK's formal entry into the bloc. To understand the significance of this move, let's delve into the details of the CPTPP. The bloc originated as a free trade agreement or FTA signed by 11 countries in March 2018 in Santiago, Chile. It officially entered into force on December 30, 2018 after the United States withdrew from the original Trans-Pacific Partnership or TPP in 2017. With the UK now on board, the CPTPP comprises 12 member nations, including Australia, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, Brunei, Chile, Malaysia, Mexico, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. Moreover, the bloc accounts for approximately 15% of global GDP and provides trade access to a market of over 500 million people. Shifting focus to India, such multilateral groupings hold immense significance. Recently, the Niti Aayog CEO highlighted the potential benefits of India joining trade blocs like the CPTPP and the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or RCEP. First, joining these blocs could enable India to tap into new markets and benefit from the China Plus One strategy. Additionally, reduced tariffs and expanded market access in the Asia-Pacific region could significantly boost exports. This is particularly relevant for the micro, small and medium enterprises or MSME sectors, which already account for 40% of India's exports. In conclusion, the CPTPP represents a growing trend towards deeper economic integration, strengthening global trade connectivity and creating new opportunities for its members. Moving on, the Union government has recently unveiled the Jal Vahak scheme, a significant initiative aimed at boosting inland waterways transportation. This scheme is designed to encourage business enterprises by ensuring the safe and timely delivery of cargo through inland waterways in a cost-effective manner. The scheme specifically focuses on incentivizing cargo movement across National Waterways 1, NW2 and NW16, promoting sustainable and efficient transportation. Let's look at the Jal Vahak scheme in detail. It will be implemented by the Union Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways in collaboration with the Inland Waterways Authority of India or IWAI and Inland and Coastal Shipping Limited or ICSL, a subsidiary of the Shipping Corporation of India or SCI. The Jal Vahak scheme aims at incentivizing a modal shift of 800 million ton kilometers with an investment of 95.4 crore rupees. It will be valid for an initial period of 3 years and will operate on fixed-day scheduled sailing services. The sailing service will ply vessels between Kolkata, Patna, Varanasi, Patna, Kolkata on NW1, between Kolkata to Pandu in Guwahati on NW2, and NW16 via the Indo-Bangladesh Protocol Route or IBPR. To further incentivize participation, the scheme offers reimbursement of up to 35% of the total operating expenditure incurred while transporting cargo. This direct incentive applies to businesses transporting goods via inland waterways for distances exceeding 300 kilometers. The significance of the Jal Vahak scheme is manifold. It aims to reduce logistic costs, decongest roads and railways, and promote a sustainable mode of transportation. Turning to the broader context, inland waterways play a crucial role in India's transportation framework. To promote inland water transport, the government has declared 111 waterways as national waterways under the National Waterways Act 2016. Some of the most notable ones include NW1, which spans Haldia to Allahabad along the Ganga-Bhagirathi-Hooghly river system, NW2 covering Dhubri to Sadia on the Brahmaputra river, and NW16 along the Barak river, among others. The Inland Waterways Authority of India, established under the IWAI Act of 1985, is the key institutional body responsible for the regulation and development of these waterways, ensuring their optimal use for cargo and passenger movement. In conclusion, the Jal Vahak scheme represents a forward-looking step towards transforming India's logistics sector, leveraging its extensive inland waterways to drive sustainable and cost-effective transportation.
Now let's discuss a significant development in India's energy sector. The Union Minister for Science and Technology has announced that India's nuclear power capacity is set to triple by 2031-32. This ambitious goal aligns with the vision document for Amrit Kal by the Department of Atomic Energy, which envisions achieving a nuclear capacity of 100 gigawatts by 2047. Now, let's begin by understanding the current status of nuclear energy in India. In 2022-23, nuclear energy accounted for about 3% of India's total electricity generation, making it the fifth largest source of electricity in the country. Currently, the Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited operates 24 reactors across 7 power plants with a total capacity of 8,180 megawatts. Now, why does India need nuclear energy? Firstly, growing energy demand. With an expanding population and rapidly growing economy projected to become the world's third largest by the end of this decade, India's energy needs are skyrocketing. Secondly, limited fossil fuel resources. Heavy reliance on imports for coal, oil, and natural gas poses risk to both energy security and economic stability. Finally, there is the environmental advantage. Each unit of nuclear power replacing coal-based power saves 1 kg of CO2 emissions, contributing to India's goal of becoming a net zero emitter by the year 2070. However, nuclear energy is not without its challenges. There's the issue of raw material. India lacks significant uranium reserves, leading to dependence on imports, which constrains expansion. Additionally, the high capital cost of nuclear plants make them less competitive compared to sources like coal and natural gas. And of course, radioactive waste remains a significant concern, with the challenges of long-term storage and safe disposal. Incidents like Chernobyl have also contributed to public apprehension. To address these challenges, the government has initiated several measures. One such step is the establishment of the world's first thorium-based nuclear plant, Bhavni, at Kalpakkam in Tamil Nadu. This plant will use uranium-233. The Atomic Energy Amendment Act of 2015 allows NPCIL to form joint ventures with other Indian PSUs, enabling better funding for the expansion of the nuclear power program. India is also progressing steadily on its three-stage nuclear energy program. Stage 1. Pressurized heavy water reactors use natural uranium to produce plutonium-239 with heavy water as the moderator and coolant. Stage 2. Fast breeder reactors utilize uranium-238 and plutonium-239 from the first stage. Stage 3. Advanced heavy water reactors will be fueled by a mix of thorium and uranium. In conclusion, the expansion of nuclear power is a vital component of India's energy future, balancing its growing demands with the need for environmental sustainability and energy security. As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. During a recent trilateral consultation between India, Iran, and Armenia, the Armenian side briefed on its connectivity initiative, Crossroads of Peace. Crossroad of Peace initiative is an ambitious regional transport proposal aimed at connecting Armenia with its neighboring countries, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Iran, and Georgia. Recently, Russian tanker splits in storm, spilling oil in Kerch Strait waterway. A strait is a narrow waterway between two pieces of land that connects two large bodies of water. Kerch Strait is located in the eastern part of the Crimean Peninsula, connecting Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. India, France, and UAE have begun Desert Night exercises over Arabian Sea. Desert Night exercise is a trilateral air combat exercise aiming to foster better interoperability among air forces of three nations during complex combat scenarios. Cyclone Chido has made landfall in Pemba, capital of Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province, and in French overseas territory of Mayotte. Cyclones are caused by atmospheric disturbances around a low-pressure area, distinguished by swift and often destructive air circulation. Recently, India, along with 7 other countries, launched a new initiative with respect to the fashion and construction industries. This initiative will be funded by a Global Environment Facility-funded integrated program on eliminating hazardous chemicals from supply chains. Jharkhand's Birho tribes have joined Movement Against Child Marriage for the first time. Birho tribe are particularly vulnerable tribal group, forest dependent, and belong to a semi-nomadic tribal community. Under guidance of Ministry of Coal, Singrauli-based Coal India Arm Northern Coalfields Limited has launched Charak initiative. This initiative is aimed at providing free treatment for patients suffering from identified life-threatening diseases belonging to economically weaker sections of Singrauli region. As per a recent study by scientists, manganese contamination of water is causing cancer in the Gangetic Plains of Bihar. Manganese is the 5th most abundant metal on earth that exists in the form of oxides, carbonates, and silicates. Recently, an eminent cloud provider firm has signed a contract for diamond cooling system for AI. Diamond cooling technology developed by Akash System integrates synthetic diamonds, the most thermally conductive material at 2200 watts per meter Kelvin, into semiconductor chips. Recent unclassified outbreak in Democratic Republic of Congo has raised concerns over Disease X. Disease X refers to a hypothetical disease, unknown pathogen with potential to cause global epidemic or pandemic. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, please visit the provided links in the description below.